Hey guys, welcome to another Rules Primer video. Today I'm looking at Horus Heresy, the board game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is a two-player war game set in the Warhammer 40k universe. This game depicts the epic battle for Holy Terra when the traitor, the War Master Horus was corrupted by chaos and attacked the Emperor's palace in an attempt to destroy the Emperor. Everything about this game is big and epic, and so it can be a little intimidating when you first pull it out of the box. So I thought I would go over a few turns of the game, give you an idea how all the pieces fit together, and maybe that will help you when you're learning the game or trying to teach it to your opponent. Okay, I've set the game up here for scenario 1, brother against brother. I've placed all the units on the board, their starting positions, and then I've set up the event deck. And the next step is to corrupt units. So according to the scenario description, the traitor player can make 12 corruption draws. So basically the traitor player is going to pick an Imperial unit. It has to be either an Imperial Army unit or an Imperial Tank Division unit, and then draw a card from the bombardment deck to see if that unit turns traitor before the game even starts. So this might be a good time for my usual disclaimer that I am trying to teach you the game, not teach you how to play and not teach you how to play well. I have no idea on the strategy of this game, so keep that in mind. And so let's see. So let's say I started with this unit here. I'm going to try to see if they're corrupted. I draw a card from the bombardment deck, and what I'm looking for is this icon here. This shows a Imperial Eagle, so it's not corrupted. Let's try this one here. Aha! So that's the mark of the chaos. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a black base and change this Imperial Army unit over to a traitor side. Now, for some reason, my black bases, all I have are 2, so I'm going to take a base from one of these guys. I've had some issues with the bases in my copy. I'm one short and one of them's broken. But okay, so now this Imperial Army unit is a traitor unit, and it stays in its same place. So that's 2. Let's try this one for 3. Oh, and it's 1, 2. Let's try this tank unit over here for 4. Nope. This one, 5. It is. Now, tanks have a strength of 2. Strength is denoted on their base by the little pointy triangles. So I have a corrupted unit there. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's move over here. Try this one for 6. And he is corrupted. 6, 7. Nope. 8. Yes. 9. Yes. So 10. Nope. 11. Yes. And finally 12. No. All right, so that's my corruption draw. Next up is bombardment. According to the scenario description, I get to make 4 orbital bombardments. So to do that, I'm going to choose a location on the board that's not a fortified location. Fortified locations are anything like one of these or the part of the palace. Can't pick one of those. So I'm going to pick this one for my first one. Even though I've got a corrupted unit in there, I'm going to hopefully see if I can take out a Titan or something. Now what I do is I choose if it's going to be reckless or if it's going to be precise. And I think I'm going to choose precise on this one. And then I draw another card for the bombardment deck. And I look at precise, no effect. Okay. Now let's try, how about How about this way over here? And this is going to be reckless. So for my reckless bombardment, no effect. Oh, if I had picked precise, it would have been 2 damage and a breach. But okay, so that's 2. Let's see, where else could I go? How about that Titan way over here? And this one's going to be precise. 3 damage and a breach. Okay, so I have done 3 damage and a breach on this. I'm going to use my 1 damage to eliminate, oh no, to eliminate this Imperial Guard unit here. And then I'm going to do 2 damage to this Titan. So you can see he's got 4, so he can still take 2 more. Place that damage counter there, and then I also get to breach an adjacent fortification, so I will put that breach token there. Okay, and I've still got 1 more bombardment. I think I will attempt to bombard this guy right there, just to see maybe I could get a breach. So I want this to be precise. And precise, no effect. Okay, so those are my 4 bombardments. And now we need to set up the order cards. So the scenario description says that the trader player places 4 of his port landing and or drop pods starting order cards at no initiative cost in any regions of his choice on the strategic map. Okay, and then I shuffle the remaining port landing and drop pod starting order cards. So I've separated out the starting order cards for the trader player here. So I get to put 4 port landing and or drop pods. So here's a drop pod, port landing, port landing. Okay, let's separate those out. Okay. So drop pods let me place 3 Chaos Marines, Space Marines, or Thunderhawk flights from my stockpile or the Vengeful Spirit into any areas in the region. Okay. And a port landing, placing units from your stockpile in a friendly or neutral spaceport area. Okay. So the map is broken up into the regular map, which we've been looking at, and then the strategic map. When you place orders out of your hand, you can either pay a cost and play them directly onto the map, or you can pay a smaller cost and put them into the strategic map, and then later on you can use those orders for cheaper. You save some resource costs by planning ahead, basically. So let's say. So I need to decide what region I think I'm going to need to use these drop pods and these port landing cards in. It seems like the drop pods especially would be helpful near the palace region. So I'm going to put 1 there. And the port landings seem to be good for where we control ports. We control this port in the Volcanus region, so maybe I'll put 1 there. I still get 2 more. Let's put a drop pod in the Lion's Gate so we can try to get that spaceport possibly. Another port landing here because I think those Titans are going to come and attack me soon. Okay, so there's my order card setup. Now it says I shuffle the remaining of these back into my order deck, which is here. So I'll shuffle these guys, and then I think we're ready to start play. Okay, before we start playing, let's look at how you actually win the game. There's a couple different ways that you can win. The trader player can win by storming the Emperor's Palace and killing the Emperor. The Imperial player can win by killing Horus, who starts out the game up here in the Vengeful Spirit, which is in orbit above the planet. Also, either player can win if the initiative track has gotten past the spaceport victory possible space. If it passes that, then you can win by controlling all 4 spaceports on the board. And whoever does that wins. The last way the game can end, if it gets the initiative track gets all the way up here to the Imperial victory, then the Imperial player wins because reinforcements arrive and destroy the traitor units. So those are the ways you can win. Now let's start with the first turn. To decide who gets the first, whose turn it is, who's the active player, you're going to look and see who's behind on the initiative track, and if the markers are on the same space, then whoever's on top is going to be the active player. So the Chaos, the traitor player, goes first, and so he's going to take his first turn. Okay, the traitor player is now the active player and is ready to take his first turn. Now on your turn you have a couple of different options. First option is to place an order. So I can take one of my order cards from my hand and I can place it on the strategic map at the top of one of these stacks anywhere that I want to, and that's going to cost me 1 initiative point. Now that means is that I'm going to need to move the initiative marker down 1 space. The other option I have is to execute an order from the initiative track, from the strategic map. So that's also going to cost me 1 initiative, and it has to be one of my orders, and it has to be at the top of one of these stacks. The third option is to execute an order from my hand. And so you can see what I have a redeploy order in my hand that will let me move around units. I have an assault order which will let me attack a area, and I have a firefight which will let me start a combat in an area. So to play one of these from my hand directly on the main map, it's going to cost me a number of initiative points equal to these skulls here. So I would have to move the initiative track 2 spaces if I wanted to play this firefight, or for this assault I'd have to move it 3 spaces. Now what that means is that my opponent would potentially get to do 3 things before I would get another turn. So you can see how that's costly to play them directly from your hand. Now, like I said about strategy, I'm not sure, but I'm thinking that these guys look a little outnumbered compared to these Titans and these tanks. Even though I do have a traitor tank in there, I'm afraid they're going to attack me. So I'm thinking I should spend 1 initiative point to execute an order from the strategic map. And so I'll execute this one. It's that that port landing. So place units from your stockpile or from the Vengeful Spirit in a friendly or neutral spaceport area in this region. The unit's combined rank must not exceed 6, and then activate the spaceport region. And since I'm playing it from the strategic map, I also get the strategic effect. The maximum combined rank is increased to 12 instead of 6. So I get to place up to 12 strength of units into this spaceport area. Now each area has a stacking limit of 6 units, and there's already 3 there, so I'm only going to be able to place 3 units. And since I think this hero works well with the red guys, the corn troopers, I think I'm going to land more of those. So now I have 6 units, not counting the hero, and that was less than 12 points worth. So that port landing gave me some serious backup there. So if these guys do try to attack, we can have us a nice little rumble there. Since this order has the recycle icon, this goes to my reserves instead of going to the discard pile. So I'm going to start a new reserves down here. Why don't I turn it this way? And now I need to move the initiative marker 1 space because I executed an order from the strategic map. Now, since this makes my opponent further back on the initiative track, then we're going to, a couple of things happen. For one thing, we're going to initiate a change of initiative step, which means coexistence battles are going to be fought, and we're going to look at stacking limits. So there's going to actually be a lot of coexistence battles because all of these places where I have a traitor unit is going to fight, and I have several of those. So let's look at how those work. Okay, one thing I forgot to do was to put an activation marker in this space. That basically means I cannot order any of the units in that space again this turn. Now we're going to fight this. So we're going to put the combat iteration marker on the 1 space. Now the Imperial player, since there's several coexistence battles, the Imperial player gets to choose what order. So let's kind of do a smaller one maybe first. What's a good small one? Here's one right here. So I've placed the combat iteration marker on the first one. Coexistence battles, I think, have a they can go all the way to 8 iterations. Now the next step is to draw combat cards and hero cards. So in this case, I've got the Imperial player has 3 points worth of units. Then I'm going to divide that in half and round up. So I'm going to get 2. So the Imperial player is going to draw 2 combat cards, which are these guys. And the traitor player has 2, so they're going to draw 1 combat card, which is this one. Okay, so in coexistence battles, the traitor player is always the defender, and the defender gets to choose whether they will be active or passive player in the first iteration of combat. So in this case, the traitor player is going to choose to be the active player. So he can play now from his hand a number of combat cards up to the current iteration. So the iteration is 1. He can only play 1 card, but he only has 1 card in his hand anyway. So he's going to play it. And this is the irresistible forces of change. Now, this has an attack strength of 2, has 3 shields, but for the special ability to happen, he needs to have a Zenich, anyway, one of those units, and he just has a corrupted tank unit here, so he doesn't have that, so he can't use this special ability, but he does do 2 points of damage. And so now the Imperial player is going to look at his combat cards and see what he wants to do, and I think he will play actually, I think he will choose not to play. He could play this card. It has 1 shield, but that would limit the damage to only 1 point of damage, but then he couldn't kill that tank unit because then his next turn he could only play this card, which would only deal 1 point of damage, and the tank unit has 2. So I think he will choose not to play that. So now he's going to take 2 points of damage. And so he will eliminate this tank unit. And that's the end of the combat iteration. Now the marker moves to the 2 space. And the Imperial player becomes the active player. And he can play up to 2 cards. So he'll play both of these cards for a total of 4 damage. The traitor player has no cards to play. So he's going to take all 4 of those damage, which is going to eliminate that traitor unit from the game. And since there's no traitor units in the space anymore, that ends that battle. Discard all the cards to their various discard, and we move on to the next coexistence battle. Okay, I went ahead and fought the rest of the coexistence battles. Not much happened. This guy did 1 point of damage here, and then the traitor unit here got wiped out. It's funny how I'm associating myself with the traitor player for some reason. It says something about my psyche. Anyway, so now that's the end of the change of initiative step. We do the resolve special phases step, and this space, can't see that. This space here was not a special phase, so we didn't pass or land on any special phases. So we skipped that, and now it is back up to the action step. The player closest to the beginning is the Imperial player, which makes them the active player. Okay, so as the Imperial player, I think I'm a little worried about more reinforcements arriving down here. So I'm going to move this assault card and place it on top of this card here. That takes 1 initiative point to place an order on the strategic map. So I move my initiative marker here. So that was the advanced initiative marker step. And now we do a change of initiative step, and since I still have the initiative as the Imperial player, there's nothing that happens in the change of initiative step. And now we do the resolve special phases step. This is not a special phase, so don't have to worry about that. So it's still my turn. I get another go. So this time, so I'm thinking that what might be helpful to show is a big battle. So I think I'm going to activate this firefight order. Target area in this region for one adjacent. Attack a target area in this region from one adjacent origin area and fight 4 iterations of combat. So to play this card, I'm going to need to spend 2 initiative. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to choose these Titans and this tank here to attack this area. Now that might be suicide, but like I said, I want to show how a big battle would work. So we're going to do 4 iterations of combat. So I'm going to put the iteration marker on the 1 space. We're going to do 4 iterations. The Imperial player is the attacker, and so the defender gets to choose if they will attack first, if they will be active first, or if they will be passive first. Okay, so let's count up the unit strength. We got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 17 divided by 2 is 8.5, round up. So the Chaos player is going to get to draw 9 cards. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the Imperial player has 4, 8, 10. Imperial player is going to get to draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, like I said, the traitor player is a defender, so they're going to choose to go to either be active first or be passive first. I think they'll choose to be passive first. And so the Imperial player in the first iteration will need to play up to 1 card from his hand. So let's look at his cards real fast. We got Heroic Combat. This gives a 2, but I don't have any heroes in this battle. Oh, which reminds me, there is a enemy hero, so I get to draw 2. The Chaos player gets to draw 2 hero cards for the combat. Okay, so let's go back to looking at the cards. Heroic Combat does 2, not going to help me for the special ability. We got the Angels of Death. We do not have any Space Marines, so I can't use that, but it does have 2 shields and 1 damage. Now this one looks good. Armies Without Numbers. It's got 3 attack, 2 shields, and an Imperial Army, which we do have. The next time one of your Imperial Army units is eliminated in this battle, place an undamaged Imperial Army from your stockpile in the area. It's considered to be engaged, so that's good. And then I think, are we already back? No, this is a different one, but it's not going to help us. But it does have a 2, so that's good. Here's another 2. Attacking unit. We do have an attacking unit. 2 units of your choice whose rank is less than the unit's rank are routed. Okay, so that's good. And it also does 3. So, okay, so we need to pick one of these cards. Why don't we go ahead and play Armies Without Number? And then, so we'll get that special ability. Okay, so we'll play that. The traitor player can now choose to play a card for shields. Why don't we do this card? So we'll play for the shields. So we need to take 1 point of damage. We'll eliminate this guy. Now the combat iteration goes to the 2, and it is the traitor player's turn. They can play up to 2 cards. That's pretty nice. Let's play that for sure. That says that any unit, eliminate this unit to eliminate an opposing unit of the same or lower rank. So we'll play that one. Sorry about the focus here. Why don't we go ahead and play this one as well. Okay, so now I reveal my 2 cards, and I get to pick one of them that use the special ability. Now this special ability I can use because I do have a hero, but all it does is damage an opposing hero. There is no opposing hero, so I don't want to activate that one. Instead, I want to activate this one. Eliminate a unit to eliminate an opposing unit. So why don't I could eliminate these cultists, or one of these space marines, which would eliminate this tank unit. Like I said, I don't know if that's a good idea, but I'll just do it. Okay, so now I've got a total of 5 damage coming at the Imperial player. Imperial player could, why don't we go ahead and play this one for the shields. Really sorry about the focusing. We'll play this one for the shields. So now they take 2 points of damage. So one of these titans will be damaged for 2. Still has 2 left. Now the combat iteration moves up to 3. It's the Imperial player's turn. I haven't been doing a good job of discarding these cards. But I think this is still what they... So we could actually play all of these. Which we probably should, unless we want to save some of these for defense. Yeah, why don't we save this one for defense, because this next iteration is the last iteration. So we'll play these 2 cards. I don't have a hero, so neither one of these special abilities can happen. But that is 4 points of damage going towards the Chaos player. And the Chaos player, meanwhile, will say, 4 points of damage. We could just discard 2 of these. Discard 2 of these to eliminate those 4 damage. And so now combat moves into iteration 4, the final iteration, and the Chaos player can play 4 cards. So let's see, what do we want to? We definitely. I don't know if we want to do that one. We don't have any Slanesh units. We do have this one. Move 1 friendly unit from any area adjacent to this hero into this hero's area. Unit may move from an area with a normal or routed activation marker. So yeah, that's pretty good. But I think we'll just play 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll just play our 4 biggest ones. So that's a total of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 points of regular damage. And the Imperial player only has this one, so it still takes 8 points. This one only has 2, and that actually eliminates both of these Chaos units. So that was a bad idea, but you can see how a large combat happens. And so now I'm going to discard all those cards that we played and the ones that we didn't play. And that's the end of that battle. Now the card that I played to start that battle had an initiative cost of 2. So I'm going to move my marker 1, 2. And now, since there is a change of initiative, we're going to fight coexistence battles. And I think the only coexistence still around is this one right here. So each player is going to draw 1 card. The Chaos player is the defender, so they get to choose if they want to go first. And I think they shall. They will play this card. Diversionary tactics, attacking unit, that's not going to happen, but it's going to be 3 points of damage. They can discard 1 to make it 2 points, but that's still going to be enough to kill this unit. So that's it for the coexistence battles. Now the next step is the special phase. And since we did pass through this event phase, we're going to do an event phase. So let's look at how we do that. Okay, in an event phase, it's pretty simple. You're just going to draw the top card of the event deck. Now, this event deck was constructed based on the scenario instructions. It tells you a certain number of cards for each act. You shuffle each act, and then you stack them. Act 3 on the bottom, Act 2 on the bottom, and Act 1. So then we draw the top card. Tendrils of the Traitor, due immediately. The Traitor player chooses 2 adjacent areas and then draws 1 bombardment card for each Imperial Army and Imperial Tank Division in those areas, in any order he chooses. On a Chaos Star result, that unit is immediately replaced by a corresponding Traitor unit. Let's do this area and this area. Okay, so I'll just line them up here, and we'll just draw. So the first one, yes. So this gets traded in for a Traitor. The next one, no. Next one, no. And the tank, no. Okay, not very good for the Traitor. And then this guy, no. Okay, so that event card turned out pretty good for the Imperial player. Only 1 corrupted unit. Chaos will have to do better. Hire more cultists. Okay. So now that's the special phases, and then now it would go to the Traitor player, and they would take their turn, just like we've been doing. I think you've seen enough to kind of get the gist of how it works. There's a couple of other special phases that we didn't go, well, that you hit later. There's the order phase, which is when you're going to draw more order cards, and then the refresh phase, which is when activation tokens are going to come off the board. And then let's see what else is on here. There's the Spaceport Victory. We talked about that. Opens up the ability to capture all 4 spaceports and win the game that way. And then I think the rest of them, the only other different one is the Imperial Victory at the very end. So let's see, is there some stuff that we didn't cover? Obviously, there's a lot of different orders that we didn't do. We didn't do a whole lot of movement. There's, movement rules about the speed that the different units can move, but all that's in the rule book. You can see there's a lot to this game. Please let me know. I'm still learning this game too, so let me know if I did anything wrong. I think I forgot some of the special abilities I could have used in that big battle for the Imperial side. But especially let me know if there's any fundamental stuff that I've done wrong. You can see everything, the basic structures of the game, not that complicated, but it still gives you that epic feel of a massive battle. I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching, and happy gaming!